Welcome to Foresight Friday at NIOSH. My name is Nicole Edwards, and I'm with the Office of Research Integration at NIOSH. We are very excited to have our colleagues, Sarah Feltner and Jessica Streit, with us today to review the methods and results from a recent strategic foresight exercise that NIOSH conducted to explore the future of occupational safety research. Sarah is professor in the Department of Environmental and Occupational Health and director of the Southwest Center for Occupational and Environmental Health at the University of Texas Health Science Center at the Houston School of Public Health. She has had over 35 years of experience in occupational safety and health research, training, and service in the U.S. and internationally. Her recent work focused on developing strategies and tools to anticipate the occupational health challenges in the future of work and explore the need for an expanded focus for occupational safety and health through a futures-oriented approach to planning and action. Jessica serves as Deputy Director for the NIOSH Office of Research Integration. As part of this role, she leads the NIOSH Strategic Foresight Initiative, a futures-focused service that seeks to explore how unfolding changes may impact near, mid, and long-term approaches to occupational safety and health. Jessica has co-authored a number of publications and presentations examining safety and health-related challenges and opportunities for workers today and in the future. Sarah and Jessica, thank you for being with us today. And now I will turn things over to Sarah.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure for me to be presenting alongside Dr. Jessica Streit. And we're glad to be here with you today to tell you about NIOSH's recent exploration into the future of occupational safety research. I had the privilege of working on this project with Jessica and other colleagues while I was the Associate Director for Research Integration at NIOSH. We'd like to start today by acknowledging our NIOSH colleagues who devoted their time and expertise to the success of this project that we'll be sharing with you today, and we're very grateful for their contributions. There are also a few additional groups who we'd like to recognize. First, the 6 volunteers from the NIOSH Division of Safety Research who gave their time and expert perspectives to help us establish a present-day view of safety research. Also, the 27 confidential individuals who participated as subject matter expert interviewees, many of whom also contributed to helping us craft scenarios in a one-day workshop. And finally, Dr. Andy Hines and Miss Nikki Obert from the University of Houston's Foresight program, who provided consultation and support throughout the project. We want to start today by exploring the future of occupational safety research and looking at the project genesis and the benefits of foresight as a method of inquiry. As we all know, NIOSH was established under the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970 with a mandate to assure, so far as possible, every working person in the nation safe and healthful working conditions and to preserve our human resources. To meet this charge, NIOSH maintains a robust and thriving portfolio of occupational safety research that seeks to identify, reduce, and prevent work-related injuries and deaths across the U.S. labor force. For many years, the portfolio has consisted of basic etiologic, surveillance, intervention, translation, and implementation research to address a variety of known occupational hazards, including chemical hazards such as solvents, paints, and toxic dusts, biological hazards, including viruses and bacteria, physical hazards such as confined spaces, extreme temperatures, noise, and vibrations, and psychosocial hazards, including the organization of work, work hours, and work-related violence. In recent years, NIOSH has focused some of its resources on exploring the future of work and the changes that it suggests for occupational safety and health. We've gained important insights into the changes that are happening all around us and having an impact on what it means to work, who engages in work, and where work can be performed. Changes can be seen in such areas as technology, demands for new skills, and changing job arrangements, which suggest hazards in the future of work may be quite different than they are today. The potential for uncertainty and ambiguity within the complex systems that are impacted by those changes raise important questions about how responsive occupational safety research might be conducted in the future and what topics that research might explore. It was with this challenge in mind that NIOSH designed its exploration into the future of occupational safety research. Through our work, we sought to better understand possible changes that may impact the future of work and the hazards and risks it brings, reflect on our current preparedness to address or respond to those changes, and then generate options that might contribute to a robust, resilient, and thriving approach to occupational safety research. Because we were focusing on future readiness, we structured our inquiry as a strategic foresight investigation. Strategic foresight is a futures-oriented approach that can help enhance the way we think about and plan for the future. The practice of foresight involves identifying, assessing, and monitoring signals of potential future change. The insights that we gain from these signals can help both individuals and organizations better understand, prepare for, and influence the unpredictable future. Applying a foresight approach can also help overcome 3 cognitive biases that may otherwise limit how we think about what's possible for the future. Foresight relies heavily on signals of change coming from outside our own organizations, which we must actively seek out. The process of gathering evidence to gain an outside-in view of the future can help combat availability bias, or the tendency to consider only recent or easily accessible information when making decisions. It can also improve active interference capacity, which allows us to seek out information and continuously update our beliefs and behaviors to minimize uncertainty and optimize outcomes. Foresight is also largely a scenario-based practice. Going through the process of creating evidence-based stories about what the future could possibly entail can help reduce confirmation bias, or the tendency to seek evidence that aligns with our existing beliefs and theories. By considering more than what we think we know will happen in the future, we can minimize surprise. And finally, foresight encourages us to think about long-term future states and then back into plans that can begin today. This future back approach to planning can help fight against status quo bias, or our tendency to maintain current states because that's what's comfortable, and that can help facilitate organizational and individual growth and evolution. NIOSH has published a foresight framework for occupational safety and health to help researchers and practitioners engage in the practice of strategic foresight. This framework is a safety and health specific adaptation of the framework foresight created by the University of Houston. It provides a clear step-by-step roadmap of a 6 stages foresight process in which you frame the domain, central question, or issue of interest, scan, collect data related to strong and weak signals of potential change related to the domain, and develop future alternative scenario stories, vision the implications, issues, risks, challenges, and opportunities associated with each scenario, design and implement responsive strategies and actions, and continuously monitor for new signals of change. As new signals are located, they're used as inputs for future foresight efforts. And now Jessica will describe how we applied the foresight framework to complete the NIOSH Safety Research Foresight Project, or SRFP for short. Jessica?
Thanks, Sarah. So the activities of the SRFP really focused on the first 4 stages of the foresight framework. We started at the beginning of the process by intentionally framing the project, and we identified the domain of interest for the project as occupational safety. Then, to bound our exploration of that topic, we went through a series of brainstorming and discussion exercises to identify the key topics that are specifically critical to the future of safety research. The final list of topics included partnerships, regulations, the workforce, technology, and work-related hazards and risks. And recognizing that our safety research will not be conducted in a vacuum, we situated those key safety research topics within a broader set of contextual STEEP factors: the social, technological, environmental, economic, and political factors that will have a broad impact on how the future unfolds. We then developed a list of keywords that were related to each of the 5 key occupational safety topics and those 5 main STEEP factors, and used those keywords to help us gather and make sense of information in the remaining project activities. Once that domain was set, we completed a current assessment of occupational safety research as it exists and functions today. With support from our experts in the NIOSH Division of Safety Research, who were recognized at the beginning of this presentation, we summarized relevant conditions, key interest groups, and major occupational safety milestones from the past 50 years. The current conditions included factors that are both internal and external to our agency that influence the way we approach safety research. The key interest groups included organizations that have a vested interest in occupational safety research findings. And the recent history captured a number of events since the passing of the OSH Act in 1970 that established NIOSH. And among those events were the establishment of many surveillance programs and other significant initiatives that have contributed to our safety research capacity. So this current assessment exercise wasn't intended to provide a comprehensive or systematic review of occupational safety, but instead it really helped establish a baseline descriptive characterization that shed light on the current state of occupational safety research. And so with that current assessment complete and having that in mind as sort of present day operations, we started searching for information on how the future of occupational safety research might be different from today. And we used a 2-pronged approach to collect our evidence. So the first was a systematic scan or review of online resources. We used the keywords that we developed from our domain map, and a team of 6 scanners searched the peer-reviewed literature and other information sources like books, government and research reports, trade publications, magazines, newspapers, newsletters, blogs, and then other opinion pieces too, to look for signals of the forces that might shape the future of occupational safety research. 2 months of that scanning on those variety of resources for just a few minutes a week, collectively probably no more than around an hour per week, returned 177 unique scanning hits. And in parallel, we also conducted a series of 27 one-on-one interviews with 18 federal and 9 non-federal employees. These individuals are all respected scientists and thought leaders in areas that are relevant to occupational safety, including industry sectors like mining, agriculture, and construction, and also safety topics like diversity, equity, and inclusion, traumatic injury, motor vehicle safety, and robotics. And those interviews were guided by a set of predetermined questions that were designed to focus on major successes and shortcomings in occupational safety research, and the trends, decisions, and obstacles that we should consider when we're preparing for the future of research in the occupational safety space. The scanning hits and interview transcripts were analyzed using traditional qualitative research methods for both thematic and content analysis. And the key themes that emerged served as the basis for developing 6 drivers of change, or key factors that might shape the future of research in occupational safety. To prepare those for use in the Foresight process, each of the drivers of change was stated as a key uncertainty question, or important question about the future for which there is currently no clear answer. The possible responses for each uncertainty question were then defined along a singular continuum with polarized anchors. So we had a driver, for example, of technological advancement, And the key question we identified in that area was, do technological advancements bring more benefits and solutions or more hazards to the workplace? With the answer to that question falling somewhere along a continuum that's defined by the extremes of exclusively more benefits or exclusively more hazards. Recognizing that the actualized future that we'll experience will fall somewhere within the continuum, not necessarily at one of those extremes. And then with safety and health integration, just as another example of a driver, we framed the key point in that area with the question, will there be widespread acceptance for holistic approaches to integrate occupational safety and health, or will the field remain loyal to traditional approaches to occupational safety? With the answer to that question falling somewhere along a continuum that's defined by the extremes of a completely holistic approach to only staying with our traditional approaches. So we used those 6 key uncertainty questions as the building blocks to construct scenarios or stories that describe possible futures for safety research. 21 of our 27 expert interviewees joined us in a virtual participatory workshop to help flesh out those scenarios. And there are different methods from the strategic planning and strategic foresight body of literature that you can use as a blueprint for building scenarios. But for this project, we used what's called a 2x2 matrix method. And so in this method, you identify the 2 most critical uncertainty questions for your domain and use those to define the axes of a 2x2 matrix and then in which you construct your scenarios. So during our workshop, the experts who are with us quickly identified the uncertainties related to technology advancements and safety and health integration as the most important and uncertain for the future of occupational safety research. And then we assigned those arbitrarily as the X and Y axis of our matrix. So there's not really a specific reason why one is the X and one is the Y, just each needs to be assigned to an axis. So you can see we have our technological advancements as our X-axis here with more hazards and more benefits defining those poles. And then the integration of safety and health as our Y-axis, ranging in possibilities from exclusively traditional approaches to exclusively holistic approaches. And then we broke into small groups while we were in the workshop to discuss how the remaining uncertainties might play out in the 4 quadrants that we've now built with this matrix. And so at the end of the workshop, the full group of experts reconvened to debrief, share insights, and identify the implications that these 4 scenarios hold for safety research. After the workshop, our core project team worked with the notes and recordings and consulted with the University of Houston to refine the scenario stories and the implications that we derived. The final stories are each around 500 words. So for the sake of time today, we'll just share a brief summary of each of the scenarios so you have a feel for what those 4 futures kind of looked like. So in the upper right quadrant of the matrix, we have a future called technological utopianism. This is a future in which a more holistic approach to safety and health greatly reduces work-related injury and illness, while technological advancements improve workplace safety, data access, and collaboration opportunities. So in some way, this is sort of a best case scenario. In the lower left quadrant, sort of the polar opposite, if you will, of that, we have a scenario called ineffectual occupational safety and health. This is a future in which technology fails to improve the safety of work processes across industries, and the use of traditional and siloed approaches to occupational safety and health result in increased injury rates and greater occupational health disparities. So in some ways, this is sort of a worst case scenario, right? Where tech has brought more hazards and we're staying with traditional sort of siloed feeling approaches to our safety and health research. And then in between those, we have our other quadrants of the matrix. So in the lower right, we have limited utility. This is a future in which occupational safety and health remains rooted in tradition and fails to innovate, which stunts our capacity to proactively identify and address the unintended psychosocial and socioeconomic risks that accompany the positive safety benefits that are afforded by new work-related technologies. And then in the upper left quadrant, we have unintended consequences, a future in which emerging technologies and strong partnerships with industry leaders have enhanced surveillance capabilities and data access, but have also brought new concerns around dual use of occupational safety and health research. So we considered input from the individual and group analysis of each of those 4 scenarios to identify key considerations for occupational safety research. Collectively, the considerations related to building collaborations, generating and translating safety-related evidence, enhancing communications, exploring emerging technologies as a key safety priority, utilizing new types of data, addressing barriers to safety progress, safeguarding the misuse of research findings, and supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion in the occupational safety research workforce. So then we took this list of considerations and envisioned the potential implications that they suggest for the future of occupational safety research. The extracted implications coalesced around 5 major topics. These topics represent 5 main areas where strategic action that starts today might help us position occupational safety research for resilience and thriving in an uncertain future. First, we have enhancing occupational safety research methods and approaches. Amplifying the occupational safety toolbox might include considering new types of research and surveillance, expanding implementation science, and pilot testing new risk prevention strategies. Next, we have building capacity to conduct innovative occupational safety research. Improving occupational safety research abilities to engage in leading edge knowledge generation might involve increasing representation of the social and behavioral sciences in occupational safety research projects, investing in advanced training for research data analysts and statisticians, and providing all safety research staff with foundational knowledge in work-related technologies and their safety risks, hazards, and benefits. Next, we have implementing systems thinking in occupational safety research. The principles of systems thinking or ecological modeling of research issues that we might address in the occupational safety space might help us look more closely at the complexities around occupational safety. Systems-based approaches might be incorporated into occupational safety research by designing activities that identify and address not only the challenges, but also the benefits associated with new safety solutions, considering health equity, investigating facilitators and barriers to decision-making, and exploring the external factors that influence change at the individual, organizational, industrial, and societal levels. And then we have networking and connecting. Occupational safety researchers might consider collaborating with public health to address safety issues, since there is sort of a natural linkage there. We might also build and maintain not only new partnerships, but also our existing partnerships. So thinking about how to bolster those, particularly in the areas of emerging technologies, and then identify salient opportunities to strengthen public trust in the occupational safety community. And finally, we have preventing the misuse of science. So the occupational safety and health community as a whole can work together to determine whether policies that are related to dual-use research are being appropriately applied to protect workers against the misuse of science, and leverage skilled communication strategies to prevent the misapplication of published occupational research findings. Working through the strategic foresight process really helped us develop a series of long-term visions for occupational safety research in the form of the scenarios. And those are intended to help inform priority setting and the design of strategic planning efforts that can start today. So with this project, the insights that we gained through scanning for evidence helped us construct those scenarios or stories about that far-term future. And then assessing these scenarios broadened our consideration of challenges and opportunities for the safety research arena. Working with those far-term future stories, we then identified areas where strategic action is needed to reshape and transition our current practices and build new capabilities to reinforce the strength and resilience of occupational safety research as we move into the future. We encourage organizations to use these areas for action to inform strategic decision and planning efforts in both the present and near-term future. They might help us make choices, for example, on how and where to invest and align our resources and capabilities so that we're moving the safety research field forward in preferred directions. But integrating foresight exercises like this one into organizational thinking and decision-making allows for the development of futures-informed strategies and plans. And this can help bolster organizational preparedness, advantage, innovation, and performance. And this will be especially important as we move into the uncertain future of work and seek to conduct research that helps us proactively understand and address new challenges and hazards for work and working people. So in terms of our prepared remarks, we'll leave you today with the list of resources that we consulted when creating this presentation and working through the project in the event you'd like to learn more about Foresight. And we want to let you know that the NIOSH Office of Research Integration welcomes your feedback and questions on our work, not only today, but in the future as well. And we welcome email communications from fellow futurists and those who'd like to learn more about our growing activity in the Foresight space. And so with that, thank you very much for your time and attention, and I will turn things back to Nicole.
Thank you both, Sarah and Jessica, for walking us through the strategic foresight process that NIOSH used to explore the future of occupational safety research. We welcome anyone interested in learning more about NIOSH's work to advance the role of foresight in OSH research and practice to visit the strategic foresight at NIOSH webpage at its new URL. The link will also be dropped in the chat.